Okay, looks like we're live. Fantastic. Amazing. Okay, let's see here. What we got going on. Oh, let me change this to this. There we go. All right. Okay, there we go. Okay, cool. Double check on the camera. Let's see if this works. All right, cool. Nice. We're back. Okay. What's up, guys? My name is Gabriel Quinn. I am an illustrator, concept artist. I do viz dev too, and comics and all that stuff. Yeah, so we're back. We're back with another stream, which is exciting. I had a lot of audio problems that I fixed recently, so I'm super glad to have those fixed. But yeah, so today we're going to be just keeping it super chill. We're making a style guide for my art community IP project thing that I've been sort of loosely working on for a while. So today we're going to actually get in there and make the style guide so that if you want to be a part of the Valley of the Brave art community, which I've been cultivating for over a year now, and you want to make your own scout character, you can. So let's talk about what that looks like here. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So I pulled up here just a quick spread of some sketch stuff and everything. So if you go to the Patreon, you'll see that the Scout tier, which is the only tier, has these cool Scout characters. This is the original sketch form of those characters, and I wanted my art community to really feel like we were going on adventures. Like the world building we were doing, it's not just something you're doing for your portfolio. It's not like you have to do it because you want to be a concept artist and all of that stuff. Like you really want to do it because it excites you, and it's the reason why we all got into this to begin with. So I wanted to have that sense of wonder, which is why for the world building stuff, it's all kind of scout themed, rather than like concept art school or whatever, because that's just gets so old so fast. So yeah, let's take a look at what we have here. So also going to be checking the chat. As always, I answer every single question I possibly can whenever I'm on stream. So if you have any questions, feel free to hop in the chat and ask me anything. So we got Wish Paint Studios in the chat saying, finally catching a stream live. Let's go. I'm so happy you're finally catching a stream live. That's fantastic. Today's going to be later than usual. We're doing a evening stream today. I usually stream a lot earlier, but sometimes it's fun to throw out some later streams for the viewers in strange time zones and whatnot. And also just because I kind of just wanted to stream tonight. So first, let's start by talking a little bit about what a style guide even is. So that requires kind of a few things to go over. So we have to define what a style guide is. So a style guide, if you've been a part of any production project or anything like that, you will probably be familiar with what a style guide is. And you may also ask yourself, well, if you have a style guide, what does that look like, or what is it used for? And it's kind of in the name. It's a bit, over-explaining of me to go into it, but it guides the style. So why would we want to guide the style? One of the reasons why we want to guide the style in particular, for kind of a larger project or something, is we want things to feel like they're in their right place. Sometimes genre bashing and doing a bunch of kind of different ideas all at once or different genres or whatever, like it can be fun, but it's like, think, are you going to put like Batman, you know what I mean? And like, are you going to put Batman in the, I don't know, like the Barbie movie, for instance, you know what I mean? I mean, maybe you are actually. So in which case, who am I to say you can't, to be honest? But it's kind of like, imagine like the Dark Knight Joker in the Barbie movie. Like, it's just not really what you're expecting, and it probably won't work too well. I don't know. You guys get what I'm talking about. Anyway, So yeah, so you want to guide the style. You want things to feel very cohesive and efficient. I mean, think of anything that you have enjoyed in the past few years or in your life in general. Like all the Ghibli movies have a really, really tight and strong style that really suits the narrative very well. Um, and also, like the new Spider-Verse films are a great use of that. Arcane is a great use of that. I mean, like any successful piece of media, you can see there's a very strong sense of style. So it helps a lot to have a style guide, but you can kind of get really specific into style guides as well, like for certain companies or whatever. Like let's just pull one from Google Images or something. There are kind of like brand guides. And when I was working on some startup projects way back in the day, when I was still kind of getting started, you would see these kinds of like brand guides, I guess, which I think are just kind of very unappealing or whatever. But let's take a look at some. So, you kind of see this very basic looking, like these are the colors we use, this is the color palette, these are the kind of shapes we use, these are the spacings we use, these are the fonts we use, that kind of thing, where it's kind of like you limit what you limit the variance of what you can do and get creative within those variants. So that's kind of like what a brand guide is, if that makes sense. There's also kind of like a brand Bible, some people say, or like certain aesthetic Bibles and all that stuff. It's just kind of the idea that there's a central document to which you refer back to. But a style guide for something like a world building project or a concept art project, it really just needs to include only really the things that you need to help you stay within the goals of the style and stay within the style itself. So that's what we're going to kind of be developing today. So earlier in a cafe, I did a bunch of sketches just kind of for fun for myself, just to explore the kind of style idea that, to kind of explore the aesthetic and the style that I want for this project. Again, we're thinking about like these scouts who are going into new worlds, exploring new territories, and also something that reflects me and my aesthetic temperament and things that I like. And I actually came to some really cool conclusions. So I'm going to be talking about some of those conclusions here. I didn't have time to scan those sketches, so we're just going to redraw a lot of stuff today, and we're going to kind of see what we're going to do. I'm going to look in the chat as well. We got Moth. It says, hello, Gab. I finally caught you outside of uni class time. Let's go, Moth. Hope your studies are going well. Super happy to see you in the chat here. I am doing well. Thank you, and likewise. And Wishpaint says, for consistency and theme organization. That's exactly right. So I got kind of hyped to do this because I'm doing a class next month on visual narrative. So I wanted to, like, as kind of prep material for that class, create a really strong style guide, because I'm going to be talking a lot about style, genre, and aesthetic in the class, kind of really breaking it down, how to create it, how to analyze it and understand it. And I wanted to create my own example so that I could kind of point to it and all the different facets of what that could include in terms of, like, for style in particular. So that's what we're going to be doing. I feel like I've said that's what we're going to be doing like 20 times. So now let's actually do it. So I think the first thing I want to do is, I like the idea, and I oftentimes like the aesthetic of a very kind of, here we go. A very strong shape, like let's say a shape like this. And then I believe we can pull in the corners here. So yeah, I'm going to take a shape like this. And then I believe we can use gosh, every time I forget how to do this. Nope, that's the wrong tool. I always forget how to do this Photoshop, man. What a time. What a time to be alive. I believe I can make this into a shape, like a line thing, a path, I guess. I used to know how to do this. But alas, here we are. Let's make a new layer and try to just... fix this, I suppose. Blending options, image selection, new guides from shape. Oh, stroke path. Here we go. Bam. All right. So now we're going to use, I think, yeah, I guess the pencil tool, I suppose. Oh, whoa. That's not what I wanted to do. But that was kind of cool, though. All right. Let's do a brush. There we go. Okay. So now we have like a really nice, strong shape here. And then I forget how do we get rid of that? Do we get rid of it at all? Well, I suppose that shape is there, I guess. Can I clear? Can I? Oh, okay, that worked. Nope. Okay, cool. All right, so for now, we'll let go of that. So we have a nice kind of a nice shape that kind of curves around the page here, and we're going to use this kind of as our template, I suppose, for the creation of this style guide. So I'm going to be doing some formatting stuff. It'll be fun, kind of setting up a page and doing a kind of aesthetic presentation of this vibe, I guess, or this aesthetic. So this is going to be a super casual stream, and yeah, nothing too crazy. Okay, actually, I'm going to try this again. Yeah, and I'm going to try and do another version of this. There we go. That's much more even. Okay. Okay, cool. Nice. Then I can change that to be whatever color I want. So I can make it like out of a dark red or a dark blue color. For those of you who missed what I just did, I used the shape tool, the kind of rectangle tool, and then I curved in the corners with a little curvy corner tool thing. And then I just filled that in with this kind of base color, and now we have this kind of appealing rounded section. So I'm not going to be doing that much typography today. I don't think that's a good use of the time, I suppose. But I want to make a section where we can isolate a color palette. That's something that's really important, I think, personally. So we're going to do the same thing, which is pretty cool. And once you kind of get the groove of that, it's like you're pretty set in terms of being able to replicate and continue and just keep doing stuff like that. So yeah, colors that I think are really important for this particular aesthetic are warm colors. So I want to create like a really warm, actually let's use circles for this. And let's bring this sketch up as well. I love this sketch so much. I think this sketch was like just such a great moment in time for my design. I think it was just a really fun one. I thought it worked really well. Okay, so for color, I'm going to, hello? Gonna do another stroke path. Oh, we're on the wrong layer. Classic. With the brush. Whoa. Oh, I see. This is kind of cool. It's cool relearning how some of this stuff works. Photoshop, man. Photoshop is no joke. Okay. There we go. I feel like that's a little too intense. I feel like we could take that back just a little bit, you know? Just a little bit smaller. Let me decrease the brush size to like 10. Maybe that'll be good. Maybe that'll be too small. Let's find out. Also, in case you guys were wondering, like, what it looks like to develop stuff like this, or, you know, you think about how much time it takes to develop this kind of stuff. It takes a long time, you know, like artwork takes a long time. It's no joke, man. But I'm also going somewhat slowly, I feel. Okay, so let's fill in some of these areas. And then what I'm going to do is just create some copies of this. Because what I'd like to do, ideally, is, let me see. Oh, I have snap off. Let me turn snap on. Yeah, ideally what I'd like to do. Nice. Does that look good? Not quite. Yeah. Is have this be a really appealing document. So that I can, yeah, like just pass this off to like anyone who comes in the server. I can just kind of be like, hey, you want to make your own scout? Check this out. And they just totally can. Like, that's so cool. Anyway, that's the goal. That's the goal of what I'd like to do with this, personally. So we have these. So yeah, so ideally, I would like for the yellows of this project to only really extend to the warm side of the spectrum. And like a kind of a cooler yellow would almost just be like green. It looks like a really, yeah. See, that's not appealing. That's like my, not my jam. So we want things to be a little bit more on the warmer side. A little bit warmer. It's a little too much. We can go a little bit down. Yeah. Wish Paint. Oh, what up, Robert? Welcome to the chat. Wish Paint Studio says, my aesthetic style is Art Nouveau, Art Deco, early comic books, 80s anime. Difficult and fun part is trying to put them all together. That's a good combo. I think yeah, there's a lot of great stuff you mentioned in there for sure. Some things kind of naturally go together. You know, like Deco and early comics, like those kind of go very well together. It's interesting because Art Nouveau really borrows a lot of its tendencies and aesthetics from nature. Like that's obvious and clear. But then Art Deco is very much more towards appreciating and accentuating like the man-made forms, you know? Like when you look at real Art Deco design, it's reaching up so often, reaching up to the sky, reinforcing structure. And there are curves, but they usually end in those like kind of hard corners. But it's very kind of strong. Like Art Deco is a very strong aesthetic. Art Nouveau is very, very fluid in a way that I really appreciate. I love Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau is my favorite, man. Art Deco is cool too. So instantly, this is a really strong palette because it's leaning mostly towards primaries, right? So mostly primary colors. It's kind of like you have an orange in between-ish. But really, it's like mostly these very strong primaries. But again, there are variants towards primaries. Like I could redo this and kind of have a red there and a yellow there and like a blue there. And that's a very different palette than this palette. This is a very, very different palette, but they're both red, yellow, and blue. So there's some variance there, I guess. One thing I would definitely check out is there's a great video on color temperatures that I would highly recommend. It's really good. And I would definitely check that out to understand a bit more of like the nuances of color. But yeah, for now, we're just going to stick with this so that we just have something on the page that we can work around. We've accidentally made it transparent somehow. Okay. So now that we've kind of covered some colors, what I also want to do is I want to have some supporting colors, right? So if I were to look on those left colors, it would very much be this kind of, it almost feels like those would be the accent colors or like the feature colors of a given design. So now what I want to do is push these first to kind of this neutrally green, which I love a lot. And I'm kind of thinking that the base tones for all the designs of the Scouts are going to be some kind of variant of green. So that's going to be the bulk of the kind of colors we're going to find. But not a neon green or a bright green. They're all going to be somewhat desaturated, more towards gray, more towards kind of that kind of desaturated tone, and on the warmer side. So this might be the coolest it gets for the greens, to be honest, this kind of tone. But really what we're looking at here are a lot warmer greens, maybe some deeper, darker kind of greens. It's too saturated. One of my favorite colors to paint with is like a sap green, which is this is kind of a sappy green, sort of. I love a sap green. It's so nice. Okay. Maybe something like that. And then honestly, even towards the beiges as well. The beiges and the kind of the grays. We want a lot of stuff there for sure. Maybe something a little darker, like a gray. Maybe we even go into like a brown for a little bit too. So yeah, this is what I'm talking about here. So now we're starting to build up a pretty cohesive or a pretty strong palette. I'm going to bring this over to this side. Whoa. Yeah. I'm going to bring this to this side so that the kind of desaturated tones are kind of flanking or creating some kind of separation. This is going to allow you just to kind of see the relationships a bit better. So again, when we zoom out and look at that palette, this feels really nice, right? This feels like a really nice kind of palette. It's a great base to go from. And again, this is a base. Of course, if someone else were to design their own kind of Scout character, they are going to want to, of course, add their own flair, but this is a great base to build off of. So this is what I'll provide in the world building document, which is going to be a document I'll put on my Gumroad for free. Like anyone can download it, which will be pretty cool. And I'll also give you the sketch and inker brush for sketching and inking this kind of thing, you know. So it'll be cool. It'll be kind of a self-contained thing, which is nice. Okay, so let's continue here. So we have some color notes, and I think what would be good is if we made some kind of delineation for what those colors could possibly be. We could use this image on the right as the base to do that. We might want to come back and do that, actually. That would be good. So some other things I was thinking about when I was designing this, here we'll group this so that we have that group there, but we'll copy this guy because we want this frame to be the constant. Yeah, so take this, call it color. I always vary between the British and American spelling of color because, like, I went to high school in Canada, I went to art school in the UK, so it's like I want to say color with a U because that just feels right now, like color. Of course, it's color. It's color, you know, like of course. But every time I write that down in my notes app, because I'm back in the States, I'm in New York now, it's like wrong. It is color, you know. So I don't really know what to think anymore. I just keep misspelling color, apparently. So let's jump to shape, because shape is something that I think is a really important thing to keep in mind. So there were two facets of shape that I was really interested in exploring. One of them was kind of the sort of, let's pick a blue here to sketch in. Yeah, this is nice. One of them was the kind of man-made elements. So we obviously, if you're kind of a scout and you're jumping worlds and all that stuff, of course you're going to have some kind of technology, like some kind of radio to radio back across dimensions. You're going to have these things that you know, are going to be consistent with each kind of scout character, I guess. But there's also other elements too, like the clothing. If there's some kind of clothing element, what does that look like? So yeah, early on I grabbed, what was it? Was it this? I think it was this. Let's see if it's this. Okay, no, that's the older version. Yeah, I think it's this. Here we go. Yeah, so I grabbed this. I put this in the thumbnail of the video because This is a really quick bash of kind of what I'm talking about here, which is that if you have a sword, right? You're designing a sword. This is pretty just classic. One thing that I could do is I could design a sword this way, where you have the cross guard and you have the handle and, you know, and then you have the other guard and then you have this part here and this part there, or this part there, and then it forms a point. And there you go. Bam. You got a sword. Bob's your uncle. You're done. You're good to go. But that doesn't really have that much personality, right? Like, it's a pretty standard shape. It's not saying that much about, I don't know, the aesthetic temperament of the maker or whomever. But, you know, what if we had a sword where instead it kind of had like a sharp sort of S-curve and formed some kind of guard around the hand or something? Or I guess this would kind of go up. Let's find a better shape here. Let's just say, what if we did something like this, where now we have a bunch of convex shapes that are forming all of these kind of central points, you know, and even the handle almost has a feeling of convexness in it. And the blade itself, you know, extended up and kind of a tapered feel. Can't get that straight line, apparently. There we go. And then, of course, curved with that same kind of convex shape. Like, that kind of convex language is a lot more purposeful or distinct, and you're kind of thinking like, maybe that belongs to like a dragon slayer or like a dragon person, or, you know, there's a lot more personality here, or there's a lot more to kind of infer or whatever. So we want to have a level of specificity with our shapes that will help create distinctiveness in these characters. And what we also want to do is foster a sense of I guess, softness and like chill and wonder about these characters. Oh man, I ate some like fried foods before doing this stream, and I think it's like affecting my brain. I feel all of a sudden like so brain foggy. Forgive me and my slowness here. I haven't eaten like all day, and then I ate a really heavy meal, so I think it's like affecting me. But yeah, let's take a closer look here. So on the left, I have a lot of convex shapes, like really sharp shapes, and things that kind of taper in almost in that same way that we just did with the sword. And on the right side here, I have a lot of softer shapes and kind of round shapes, or rounded shapes, and that I think is the key. So one thing I wanted to make note of is that we really want to focus for these kind of technologies and designs. We really want to focus on symmetry, that like the bulk of the thing has symmetry. So, you know, over here, we might have some kind of like radio communicator. Maybe it has some, you know, again, some sharp edges, and maybe it tapers off into kind of it's like thick on this side, and then it kind of becomes thin towards the top, and you know, and then it has some kind of antenna coming out or whatever, and then we have some technology pieces and switches and whatnot. This would not work for our scouts because it's like way too sharp, and it's way too, I don't know, like aggro. It feels super it doesn't feel warm or welcome, and it doesn't feel like it's made for ease of use. Whereas if we're designing like a radio for a scout, we want to think about like focusing on symmetry, number one. So like nothing that's really tapering off that much. Things are kind of like whole shapes without a lot of taper. So maybe we still have this kind of design, but instead of sharp corners, we have rounded corners, right? Because like this is something that's being used over and over and over again, and it's supposed to be comfortable. Maybe we add like a grip. So maybe we even do like a bit of an indentation, you know, so that the scout can kind of hold it more comfortably. So we can break that silhouette a little bit, but then we can add in some like, you know, ribbed padding here so that it has a bit more comfort. And then instead of having something really skinny running all the way down, that wouldn't really work for this aesthetic. We want things to be a lot more round, you know, and like the bevels to be really soft, like everything rounded, no really hard edges. Everything sort of rounded over. You know, and the antennas maybe more symmetrical with the Scouts rather than asymmetrical. And yeah. We can have like much more chunky buttons, you know, like the switch that kind of maybe turns it on and off is a bit more, again, distinct here. Maybe a couple big buttons to help push the three-dimensionality of it. Maybe there's a dial on the side. Classic dial. Heck yeah. Gotta have a dial. That's how they tune into the other dimensions and talk with their supervisors, who are probably very frustrating. I mean, the Scouts just want to explore new worlds, but there's so much bureaucracy in this universe. It's like it's very challenging to actually get anything done. So the Scouts sometimes have to bend the rules a little bit to get where they need to go and figure out what they need to figure out. They don't really want to tell Mission Control everything. There's like a bit of a leeway, right? Ryan's in the chat. Let's go. Wishpaint says, same, bro. Yeah. Dude, I think, yeah, there's something something I hate. I feel so like, my head feels so thick right now. Wishpaint Studio also says, I have a world and story right now, but I have a hard time figuring out what medium to bring it into. What medium do you prefer to tell your stories? Oh, dude, you should take my class. I'm like dead serious. That would help you so much. You first have to figure out what medium your story wants to be. That's like priority number one. I can talk a little bit about that as we continue. Fourth says, hey, Gabriel. Hello, Fourth. It is good to see you, brother. Okay, cool. So yeah, probably like the radio would be a much more round device. We could even consider doing something where like you could even have a completely round object. Like maybe for each Scout, their radios are like a little bit different. They're like interdimensional radios. And maybe some of them are actually just round and almost like on a keychain. Kind of feels like a interdimensional pocket watch or something. That's kind of fun. So what's cool about free sketching this is like when I put down these lines and I kind of arrange them like so, like I'm kind of telling you that this curves up and this curves in, and it's just through placement of those lines. Your brain kind of automatically does that. And that's a really beneficial part of just learning how to technically draw things, doing a lot of perspective and form practice. Like it's just an essential thing to learn. So I would highly recommend doing that. But yeah, very round shapes. We could even put like a handle on the side in theory. But of course it has to be kind of rounded over a little bit maybe. Probably want to make that handle bigger if it were to be this kind of design. Yeah, so you can kind of do asymmetry, but it just has to feel like they belong together. That's the only thing. Because really, this design kind of aesthetic does not want a lot of asymmetry. It wants a lot of symmetry. Yeah, and then of course you can have your different pieces and maybe even some cool, maybe this is like a cool chart map thing that does a bunch of stuff. Who knows? I always love those kinds of designs and props in stories and whatnot. Kind of liked it more when it was just a round object. Yeah, that's just better. And then maybe kind of just like a bulbous sort of screen shape or something that you talk into or whatever. We can put a couple of buttons on the side, but nothing too crazy. That's like another fun kind of design, maybe. Something super simple and kind of strange. But for something like this, for instance, if we wanted to borrow the color palette from this side and bring it on over here, shrink it down so we kind of just have access to that palette, we can think like, oh, you know, this is kind of technology, so I think that I want to make it have that kind of earthy feel that we were talking about. Something like this. But then a couple of those buttons, we would really want it to have that nice pop of color. You know, maybe one red button and one that, and then maybe the control switch is yellow, you know? Like, that's just so classic. It just feels so appealing. It just automatically has that sense of like, this is an object that is very clear purpose, and it has a kind of friendliness about it that I think is really nice. I think it's a really cool thing. So yeah, you've got the desaturated greens and beiges, and that almost has a military feel, but by adding in those strong colors, you're adding back in like a kind of soul that I just love. Like, I love it so much. Maybe the knob is this orange color or something. But yeah, working those colors in together. And again, this is why like we want such strong colors, because it like points to function really efficiently and effectively in like a kind of a cool way. So instantly, just with these kind of like design shapes that we're thinking about, these round shapes, rounded over shapes, applying it to kind of a design here, we already have a sense of like a cool prop that has a clear function that we like, you know. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's generally what we're looking for with the design, is like these rounded shapes. We're avoiding convex, pointy shapes. We're going for stronger, more kind of friendly shapes, I guess. So we can continue sketching some of these out a little bit. Yeah, one thing I can try here is I can go over this. Like, I can reduce this down in opacity. I can go over this with a black liner. And let's see what liner we want to use for this. Yeah, this is a very, very basic brush. We can use this just for our nice kind of contour lines. And contour lines being the lines that describe the edge of the design. What up, Mackenzie Lobeck? What up in the chat? Let's go. And if you guys have any questions about this kind of stuff, don't forget to ask it in the chat. I really try and answer every single question I possibly can. There was that former question about story mediums and how to pick story mediums or preferred story mediums. And we can definitely talk about that. That's for sure. It's a great one to talk about, 100%. So this brush, I think for me, has a little too much like line weight variance. I think I want a single weighted line for this kind of thing. But we're just going to keep doing this for the sake of testing it out. Curving these lines over. Yeah, and very specifically, what I'm not doing is drawing this kind of bevel, because you'll see when I add a second value, I'm going to kind of round it over. It'll feel like a lot more rounded. Same with some of these buttons. Cool. Yeah, I feel like you guys in the chat always know like when I'm like super like up for the banter and when I'm kind of a little bit more focused or a little bit low, more kind of low energy. Today is definitely more of a low energy day. So yeah, we've kind of blacklined over that now. I think in hindsight the line was way too thick. But for the sake of continuing, I suppose, I'll just kind of take this and I'll move them down a little bit, I guess. Oh, hello. Yeah. It's a chill day. It is a chill day. You guys get it. Man, I had like you ever run into like a technical problem where you feel like your brain is like just almost bleeding? You're so like mentally exhausted from a task. I had this problem where my microphone was like hissing and it would not stop no matter what I did. I was trying everything. Finally, I thought to myself, I was like, dude, do I have a dud XLR cable? Like, did my XLR cable, like, did something happen to it? What could have happened to it? Nothing could have happened to it. It's been sitting on my desk for however long. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try. And this is after hours, mind you, hours of trial and error, trying to get this thing to work. And it's just not working. Finally, I try a different XLR cable. Luckily, I had a different XLR cable. Imagine if I didn't. I wouldn't have been able to try. But I try a different XLR cable. Instantly, all the hiss goes away. And I'm just thinking, like, what the heck? What's going on? I feel like, I mean, I know what it is. It's kind of like interference where normally an XLR cable or many cables of many kinds like have enough of a shield to kind of protect it from any interference. But these cables, I guess, were cheapo dud cables because I got absolutely wrecked, man. I got wrecked. Got wrecked by the dud cable of doom. It was messed up. So I had to switch out, try something else. But instantly, it was gone. The hiss was gone. I was like, there's no way. But there was a way. Clearly, there was a way. Vitor says nice props. Thanks, man. I'm just bashing something out really quick. But yeah, so now what we can do is soften that edge. So all I did was I painted in a shadow and then I took a soft brush and I'm just softening the edge. Because oftentimes when you have something like this, if you want that edge to feel rounded, you're never going to be able to get that with just hard line art. It has to be the light that does it. And even there's an argument I should have done that for other sections too. I think with this one, the line art is way too thick. Like it's way too thick. So I think that kind of did the design a bit of a disservice. But I don't really want to go back and change it. Anyway, we're mainly thinking about how to create a compelling style guide for a given IP. But instead of staying on shape too much, I feel like we've got some good stuff here. Of course, I want to continue describing and ironing things out and pushing them and all that stuff. I can probably do a little bit more of that here, but then I would like to talk a bit about some other stuff. Man, I'm also excited. I'm going to finally put my brush pack up on Gumroad soon so people can download my brush pack and use it, I suppose. It's gone through many iterations. All the folks in the Discord and the art community have really helped me hone that stuff for sure. Hone my brushes. The one I'm using right now is the Fun Sketch brush, and that's like a winner, dude. Everyone loves the Fun Sketch brush. And it's like 100% my creation, like no modifications to like another existing brush or anything. Like I made this from scratch. It was very satisfying. And I have a stream about making brushes. If you want to go check that out, you can search it up. This is my 74th stream, which is crazy. I had a bit of a hiatus for a while just because I was traveling so much and I couldn't really stream. And man, coming back and kind of seeing how many streams I did during kind of a relatively short period of time was kind of crazy. So it was cool to come back and see. So, I mean, one thing that I included in one of my original sketches for the Scout world or whatever was this sketch for these scouts, which I love. I love these sketches so much. They're just so simple and loose, and I just like them a lot. And one thing I included here was kind of like, you know, she's got a staff, there's a bird on it, and she's got a knife, and he's got a bow and arrow. So like, that instinctively kind of felt right to me. So I want a way of conveying tools like that, like a bow and arrow or a knife. Like I want to convey those tools in a way that's like not aggro or crazy. We talked earlier about swords. So I think like if I were to design a knife, you know, and the knife kind of had like a sharp kind of edge here, and maybe it came forward and it had serrations in it or something, that would be a bit of a overly aggressive object. If you put that in the hands of one of the scouts from this world, it would feel kind of foreign because, again, these scouts are there to discover and observe, and kind of course, they have to survive as they go around, but we don't really want them holding like sharp, aggressive objects like to hurt things in particular. Like we want it to feel on the more wholesome side. So what I devised was that as long as we stay within like the kind of ratio of sort of the perfect circle. So for instance, if I had a circle and I drew a line straight across, like that would be okay for a knife because it's like going up almost to a straight point to where the point doesn't really feel like a point. And then of course you could have the blade kind of come back, of course, keeping a really nice ratio between the edges, either halved or third. If we did a third, it would be more kind of like more like this, where you want this distance to be equal, obviously. So that's another way of doing it, kind of pushing that edge to one side, but you have to make it appealing and consistent. You could also do it across the very edge. That's kind of a Scandi grind for a knife. Recently started watching a bunch of videos about knives, and now I know all about these grinds, which is kind of weird. I don't know why. I mean, for those of you guys who know me or taken one of my past classes, you know, like I am an obsessive learner, so I have to learn. But again, staying within the ratio of this is really important because if you don't stay within the ratio of this, it'll feel too aggressive. So like if your character that you want to design, if your scout has kind of a vibe of aggression or something, that's going in the wrong direction. That's not what we want for this IP or this world. So I think I also want to do a finger ring, again, just to kind of lock that position in. And then kind of have that nice handle. Maybe it ends in kind of another perfect circle, if that makes sense. Like that would be kind of cool. What would be extra cool actually is if like somehow I was able to get it so that it was like another perfect circle coming off of like the end, like kind of like, but that would dig into your wrist, I guess. Plus I don't think it looks very good, but that would be kind of cool if it was sort of like just ratioing out of this perfect horizontal line of some kind, like something to do with that. But let's just keep it simple, I think. Yeah, and having this be really nice and symmetrical as well. Break the silhouette there a bit for the guard. Yeah, and that just feels so much more chill than, you know, the kind of serrated, super pointy one that kind of goes up into a point. So we want the tools and the objects that the scouts use to feel much more friendly, like, again, kind of like researchers on a voyage, rather than like you know, fighters, conquerors, or like survivalists. You know, we're really thinking about discovery and exploration rather than combat in particular. Which doesn't mean the scouts don't get into trouble sometimes, but it does mean that how they conduct themselves is like very particular and specific in a good way. I think I'm going to push this ring a bit more. Yeah. There we go. Actually might even be cool if it, like, the blade extended into that ring shape here. And if, like, the wrap was then something a bit more asymmetrical, because we'll get into the fashion in a minute, but I have a lot of thoughts on what I want to do with this, essentially. Yeah, and when this is done, I'm going to make it a PDF that you can download from my Gumroad at no charge. Pretty cool. This is what's called a high saber grind, for those of you that care. But yeah, so this is good. This kind of thing. This is like a yes mode. And the other one, this one, I'll do a better version of this. Something like this. Is like a major no-no. This is like bad news bears. Don't do that. This, yes, this is good. The other one, not so good. So for those of you guys who want to try this and like make your own scout like within this aesthetic, I'll be really interested to see how you adhere to the guidelines and whatnot. And feel free to send me your designs that you do, and I might critique some of them on stream and like kind of guide you to the aesthetic principles of the how we design things. But I'll be curious to see what everyone comes up with. This is going to be a really fun one. I don't think I'm going to put any rules or restrictions on how people draw faces or, you know, like that kind of stuff. But I think the shape language part is super important. So got to stay really close to that. But yeah, let's continue on here. And I think what I can do with this is, oh, it's up here, isn't it? Yeah. I'll just turn this down a little bit. Yeah, I think the black was too intense for this gadget. For the lines to be that thick and for it to be that black, it just didn't feel right. So I toned it down a bit and it feels a lot more natural now. Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, so we can see like this one following the ratio around the circle, being more symmetrical while still having some fun rounded motifs works. Whereas something like this that's way more jagged, asymmetrical, and all that stuff in a way that is not within the bounds of what we're trying to do with those rounded edges and whatnot, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it belongs. Cool. So I guess we can jump in and look at some we'll try at least some examples for, here we can group this. Yeah. Of some silhouettes, because I have a lot of thoughts on the outfits for these characters. Like I've got a lot of thoughts. I'll just make that invisible for now. So yeah, we're going to take a look at fashion and textiles and all of that stuff and see what's going to work here. And I hope you guys are drawing along is what I'll say. In a minute, I'm going to take a little quick break, and I'm just going to wash my face and go use the restroom and everything. But for now, we'll continue on. Oh, great. It's only been like an hour. Nice. Gosh, why am I so tired? Okay. Yeah, nice. I'm liking how this is looking so far. So right now the style guide is pretty much just for me. It's not super legible. It needs a lot more text, a lot more explanation around stuff. But again, we're starting this process. Of course, it takes longer than 2 hours to make an entire style guide, but we're just running it pretty quick for now, just to kind of get our brains moving and talk about it a bit. I'm not including any aesthetic references today, just because I don't want to show anyone else's art without their permission. I don't want to show any copyrighted images or anything. Like, I just want to work within what we can do here. But yeah, we got Snoozy J. What up, Snoozy J? Okay. And we'll group this, and we'll call this one shape and prop. Now we're going to be looking at the silhouette. So what I'm thinking with this design in particular, and this kind of world, as it were, is I'm thinking that, oh, we need our background. Here we go. I'm thinking that the scouts are skewed kind of quite young. Like, the people who were doing this scouting and traveling through worlds and all that stuff, like, they're not that old. They're kind of figuring things out, and they're discovering, and they're, learning as they go and all of that fun stuff. But I really don't think they'd be that old, to be honest. I think they'd be quite young. We can copy that over, make that a bit more of a bold sketch. There we go. We can do that. Set that back down. There we go. Okay. So yeah. So I'm thinking these are kind of more on the younger side of things. I think like the oldest the scouts would get would kind of be like in their 20s, I guess. Like, that's kind of like the bracket that I sort of, I suppose, want to hit. I think like and then you also get to that level where it's kind of like, then you're thinking, the older guy and the Boy Scouts, he's like, what do they call that, like an Eagle Scout, right? So it's kind of like that vibe too, of like, you do this gig, you're traveling, it's something you do, and you kind of join the Scout Corps, and then you kind of grow in seniority and all of that fun stuff. And I wanted it to kind of mirror the art journey as well, and kind of you grow into sort of a mature role, and you become more of kind of like a ranger captain guy, something like that. So that kind of vibe, right? So the scouts themselves are kind of quite young. So when I design myself as a scout, I'll probably design myself when I was quite young. I think like I would probably want to do something when I was like 11 or 12 or something, like that kind of age. Because when I was that age, I had, number one, I had like really long hair, and I had it back in like a ponytail all the time. And one thing I always had on my person was, when I was a kid, I just loved sticks and I loved knives. Like, I was like a feral child, I swear. I've talked about like, my life and where life has taken me when I was young and everything like that, and how crazy things have been. Of course, people have had much crazier lives, but my life has been strange and interesting, and at least to me. So I kind of wanted to capture that sensibility, I guess, of when I was young. I had this kind of like, I had two modes. I had this blind confidence and this just absolute fear, and like this absolute like worry. I was so worried about the people in my life, and I was so worried about my parents. I was so worried about my family, like, but with myself, I always felt very strong. Like I was really strong with my morals. I was really strong with who I was, and like I didn't give up on anything. Like, you got to imagine I was like 10 years old and people were telling me like not to be an artist at that age, and me just like dead straight in the mirror, like, you will be an artist, you will do this, you will do that, and like making it happen. Like, you got to imagine, like, I was a pretty intense kid, I think. But I also think that I really wanted to do a good job at everything I did. And I always tried to do a good job. So I think like when you're designing your Scout, you can maybe think about almost going back to some of those kind of childhood feelings you had, and kind of really think about what you were like, and, you know, the good and the bad, and kind of caricature it in a way. I also want this to be somewhat of a, not a therapeutic exercise, but a reflective exercise, you know, thinking about life, thinking about embracing, you know, your childhood in a way that maybe is hard. Oftentimes I feel like we resent our childhoods because we didn't do all the things that we know now to do. But you were a kid. You didn't know. Like, you had no clue you couldn't fix your parents. You had no clue you couldn't, you know, make the world better through rationale and reason. You didn't know. You didn't know people didn't respond, you know? So yeah, it's kind of like cut yourself some slack in many ways and look back on yourself with a bit of compassion. It's interesting because I oftentimes think of my younger self as a failure because I couldn't fix my parents. And it's like, wow, what a job for a kid. You know? So now we're getting to the kind of era, or the kind of design that really gets me excited about the Scouts, which is like the textiles and the cloth. If there's one thing you guys know about me, it's I love textiles so much. I think they're so cool. So one thing I want to focus on here is kind of like, again, we're thinking about, you know, for instance, the edges of cloth. If we were to kind of sketch out like the edge, like if there's like a wavy edge, like maybe you see the stitch pattern, because like I want the objects that aren't technology to almost feel handmade, because like these are young people and it's like they're Scouts, you know what I mean? Like everything's kind of like woven and sewn together, and there's kind of these blocky, crude patterns, but I want the motifs to feel like they're in reference to like the nature they're seeing. So for instance, I want to give this kid, you know, a cool poncho, and I want the poncho to feel like almost like a ginkgo leaf in a way. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I know, hard pivot thematically from what I was talking about before. I was talking about some really heavy stuff and I just switched into concept mode, but we got to keep it moving, I guess. But yeah, I want to do like a really cool poncho design, and I want it to feel like cool kind of ginkgo leaves, if that makes sense. I really want that cool feeling, that really nice aesthetic. And you can imagine when you're sketching or drawing this stuff out, like doing these kind of hard shadows, the kind of like the deep kind of black shadows, is going to be a cool element of this aesthetic, because the negative space is like a super important and fun part of it, in my opinion. All right, that's a little too uniform, so we'll stick with the long one, but the short one we'll cut. I think instead we'll do kind of like a couple wraps and scarves here around the neck to keep them warm. And again, this is like the start. I'm starting the design for me. This is like the first iteration, but we'll see, of doing my own kind of Scout here. And of course, I've got my staff. I've got my stick, trusty stick. Oh, oops, I'm on the same layer. Let me put this on a new layer. But yeah, I've got my stick. I would always electrical tape my sticks. Electrical tape was the best grips. That's how I would make my swords. I always made swords out of sticks and like planks and stuff. I was like so intense. Wish Paint Studio says hippie child. You better believe it. Both my parents are musicians living in rural California. I was the hippiest child. You don't even know. Ryan said, got so locked in, I ran out of battery. Dude, that's such an iPad moment. Anne says, I liked my childhood, even with the madness. You know, me too. I think we all should, in a way. Wishbane CJ says, I think my life is sort of opposite. Everyone supports my art, but I have doubts about my art journey recently. That's very normal. Having doubts about your art journey is very normal. I think sometimes we want to put the category of, you know, like we kind of think about doubt as being either, we think of the binary of kind of good and bad. So it's like self-doubt is bad. Don't doubt yourself. But we know that hubris and arrogance is also bad. And in that area, you don't really have doubts. You have, you know, a kind of a blind confidence almost when you have hubris and arrogance. So then maybe doubt is good. But if doubt is good, then, you know, then you fall into that trap of now you feel bad, but you should feel bad for some reason. So it's kind of like the binary of good and bad really gets us into trouble. Instead, what I would think about is kind of like you have this thing that you're calling doubts about your art journey. And that's a very abstract thing. You have doubts about your art journey. Like that's abstract to the point of not being useful or not able to be useful. And it's probably vague on purpose. Like you kind of make it vague so you don't have to deal with it in concrete terms. Whereas how you could look at it or how you could think about where you're at right now is you feel like something could be off, or you feel like something is not necessarily on track. And let's say you make, you know, one drawing a week, you know, like one drawing per week. And you can think about you could think about how how that scales, right? 52 drawings a year. And let's say these drawings maybe aren't strong drawings. You don't finish them. Maybe you're not like pushing yourself too hard. Maybe you're not, you know, you're kind of taking it easy. You're coasting. You're not trying to learn. So you have 52 drawings, and this is generous. One drawing a week is generous. I know most of you guys, or a lot of people don't do that. When you actually look at the evidence, you know, you probably are not doing one drawing a week, or one illustration a week or something. But let's say best case scenario, you do 52 drawings and then, you know, you stack that up across like 4 years and now you've done about 200 drawings, right? Over 4 years, which is like a, let's say that's a university degree in a way. You have 200 drawings. Maybe some of them are good. Most of them are probably not very good. But you feel like you're like, well, I'm an artist. I'm drawing. I'm making a drawing every week. You know, that seems right, or this seems good. But then when you think about, you know, people who train for these really intense positions, like people who go to school for, you know, medicine, people who go to school for law, for engineering, for whatever, like these really intense paths, these people are studying a lot. You know, they're getting a lot done every day. They're structuring their time very well because they have to. The institutions that they're a part of require it. So they're able to kind of work backwards from like a ideal, I guess. They're able to work backwards from like an absolute must, you know. In medical school, you absolutely must pass your exams. Otherwise you will not become a doctor. It's like very intense. But if you're an artist, there's just this alwaysness of being an artist where you're always going towards whatever it is you think you're going towards. So when you're thinking about, you know, like I have doubts about my art journey, what you could be feeling is that your intuition is telling you that if things continue the way that they're going right now for you, if things stay the same, you produce the same amount of art in the same way for however long, then the result will not be what you want, right? So if things just continue this way, the result will not be leading towards your goal, which is maybe you want to be a professional artist. I don't know. But we've talked about this a lot on stream, how becoming a professional artist is like not just extraordinarily difficult, but, you know, you have to do it. Like you have to do the art. So if you instead change it to you're making a drawing a day, right? One drawing a day is very different from one drawing a week, because one drawing a day at the end of the year, you have 365 drawings, you know? And because you're doing it every day, you're probably getting better even faster because you're able to identify your problems and find solutions in a better ratio of like time to effort, right? Because if you draw once per week, like sometimes you need frequency in order to actually get the gains, because if you fall out of step of the habit and it's not like a strong habit, you're not thinking about it all the time, where if you're doing it every day, you're thinking about it much more, thinking about it all the time. So if you make one drawing a year, you have 365 drawings. Again, now we're going to stack that up across 4 years. And what do you get? You get a big number, baby. You get like 1,000, close to 1,500 drawings, I think. I'm pretty sure. So like 1.5K. 1.5K is a lot more than like 200, right? And you can imagine the difference of who you are after those 4 years between these two numbers. So when you have doubts about your art journey, I would, rather than thinking of those abstract elements of like, I'm so afraid, I'm so this, I'm so that, like actually just sit down and think like, okay, like let's think about where this is going or where I'm going. Because if you don't do that, what oftentimes happens is you are constantly trying to make up for something in your art. You're working off the back foot. You're like, well, I have to prove myself with this drawing. Well, now I have to prove myself with this drawing. Well, now I have to prove myself with this drawing. And you're just trying to prove something that like you don't really even understand. And you're in somewhat of a vicious cycle where you're not making kind of enough art to feel like you're getting kind of good gains. And then you're kind of stuck in this loop of you're stuck in a loop of I don't know, it's almost like you're forcing the intense delusion again and again and again. And this is oftentimes mostly associated towards people who have to deal with like the word talent a lot, and visual artists have to deal with the word talent a lot, because either you're talented or you're not talented. And if you're not talented, you're like dead in the water. And if you are talented, then everything is easy for you and you're going to become successful. But again, that binary thinking is not serving you, and it's actually not true either. It's actually, the truth is that anyone can progress and become very, very skilled in visual art. I guess there is some variance in the rate in which people improve and how they improve and the way in which they can improve. And that's just part of the natural diversity of mankind. It's not, some boogeyman out to get you. Like, you're going to become a uniquely incredible artist that you will become. But if you pass through the crucible of doing as much art as you possibly can, like you're going to get really good. Like it's whenever I talk to my students about this, there's this feeling of like, but what if I try really hard and what if I draw all the time and what if I do this stuff and I don't get better? It's like, it's just kind of funny to me to hear that, because it's like saying that, if you go out for a run every day, like your heart won't become healthier. Like it will happen. There's such a guarantee. It's like, it is an absolute guarantee, but if you don't do it, you'll never get the actual data. So it's like, if you're having doubts, it probably means that your intuition is telling you something, and who knows what that something is. And it's up to you to engage your wisdom, because everyone has wisdom, to engage your actual heart and your actual wisdom to say, is this me being scared of success, me thinking I'm not allowed to do something, or is this feeling of doubt signaling to me that I'm actually not doing what I really want to do, So yeah, bit of a long drawn out thing there, but I felt compelled to say it, I guess, because it always makes me sad when, another artist is feeling lost, I guess. I wish that artists could be there for each other in the same way that like lawyers are there for each other, or like engineers are there for each other. It's really weird how I feel like artists are not really there for each other, because people tend to default to like a false modesty, which is like a self-deprecation, which is like, you know, someone says like, oh, I don't understand perspective, and the other person says, oh, me neither, ha 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 ha. Everyone laughs and moves on. And then those two artists are bereft of a core, essential skill you need as an artist. You need to understand perspective. Desperately, you need it. But, you know, instead of actually supporting each other and learning and growing, we kind of just laugh off the fact that none of us understands anything, and we almost take pride in our ignorance, which is kind of crazy. Okay, I'm popping off now. We got to get back on track. You guys got to stop me, man. You got to stop me. Okay. Ryan says stick for no reason is essential. I agree. Michael Howe says, so I know it's been on the Discord for a bit, but what is this community project? Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then Ryan says, just pulling out crucial facts from the old back pocket. True. Michael Howe says, glad you became an artist. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you guys are so nice. You're actually going to make me cry. Like, actually, you guys got to stop. Ryan says, I love how this kind of boils down to just do it. Yeah, it's like, just do it, you know, but it's like, when we think of just do it, we think of this almost caveman-esque reductionist feeling of like, you know, there's almost like a blah, you know, mode to it where it's kind of like blarg blarg, just do it, you know, brute force combat, you know. But rather than thinking just do it, it's like, you know, the path, right? The path is in front of you. Just take single steps, right? Single steps. You know it's going to get you there. You absolutely know it's going to get you there. And you know it's going to get you there because every incredible artist you know says it, and they've all gotten there. So like, trust them, you know, like trust the data that you have, right? Repinger says, spitting facts. True. I've got a lot of opinions about this stuff, man. I've got a lot of opinions. Okay, interesting thing. TKBK says, modesty is the very opposite. It is the opposite of hubris. Not doubts. Very, very different. That's an interesting take. When I think of modesty in particular, modesty to me lives in this, like, it lives in the same word as like nobility, you know, like having this sense of like morality and trueness to you. So if you're able to be authentically modest, then I don't think you're dealing with the same doubts. If you're able to actually be modest and clear, then your doubts are going to look different. Your thoughts are going to look different. So embracing modesty, which is in the same way embracing reality, is, I think, very important. I think the common, or the kind of the brain's want to define modesty oftentimes puts it in the same box as self-deprecation, where it's don't think much of yourself. Like, that is what modesty is. It's like, don't think much of yourself, self-effacing more. But like, I think real modesty is much more honest and authentic and in alignment with reality, which is good. Snoozy J says, for a couple months, I've been meeting with my friends online every day to work on our individual studies for 90 minutes, and having that support and being held accountable by each other is a game changer. Supporting each other as artists, giving each other well-meant feedback, and encouraging each other really does go a long way. I absolutely second that. Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Okay, now we got to get back to these designs. We've really taken a strong aside here. But I hope that was helpful. And I hope you guys feel motivated and excited. Like, you know, we're embarking on the same mission as like all of our art heroes. You know, we're going into the same jungle. We are meeting the same, I don't know, primordial art gods, whatever you want to say. It's like we're all going down that same path together. So, if you choose the path of visual art and storytelling, like, you have chosen the same path as me, and therefore you are my friend, and I will consider you like a brother or a sister or whatever. But that for me is very, very real. And I always make time for people that I know are really about it. Not in like a hardcore way, but in like a true, honest way. A way that has a very healthy certainty about it. Anne is in the chat. Hello, Anne. Says, tip: if I find it hard to take the time to do art, use a timer and put 30 minutes. Anything. That is exactly right. That was a great suggestion. That's fantastic. Even today, this very day, I felt a sense of stagnation and a sense of, I don't know, paralysis, I think. There was just a lot going on in my life, a lot of stuff happening, some intense conversations were in my life recently, and like hard to get back in the zone. So I knew I needed to change my environment. So today I just went and sat in a cafe and I just started scripting out this this aesthetic style guide. And I think it's been going pretty well. I like it. So yeah, that's a tip. Change your environment. Change yourself, baby. Let's go. Wishpaint says, can I show you some of my work? I don't know how, though. Do you have an email? If that's okay. Well, it's a good question. You can always show me your work for sure. I don't 100% have all the time ever. You can DM me on Instagram, which should be in the description, I believe. It should be. Let's find out. Yeah, there it is. You can DM me. I may get to it at some point. But if you want to post your art in a community way, we have a really great community Discord it's linked to Patreon, so it's $3 a month, but it's super awesome and wholesome, and I love it, and it's like my favorite art community space, and we post all of our art there, so you'll see my stuff, you'll see everybody else's stuff. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool. This would also be a good time to plug the course, eh? All right, let's plug the course. Let's do it. Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's make this big so you guys can see. Okay. Yeah, let's actually talk about this. All right. It works. Let's go. Okay. So, guys, this is super exciting. This is my March course. This is going to be happening in March 2025. That's like in like 4 weeks or something. So this is going to be a course focused on visual narrative. It's a 5-week visual narrative bootcamp. So super high intensity. And what do I mean by that? Like, why a super high intensity bootcamp? Well, first I'll just take you through the assignments so you can get a sense of why this is considered a intense bootcamp. For the first week, the assignment will be designing a character, a prop, and environment that communicate all facets of visual narrative at our disposal. So we're going to be talking a lot about what visual narrative is, and how you can use visual art or all the methods of describing narrative that you possibly can use, which is, again, this is essential information. If you're seeking to be a professional artist, like, you need to know this stuff. There's so much that people do not know. And yeah, so the second week, the assignment is going to be using technical perspective, sketch out 3 cinematic shots that include several characters in each of them. So again, like, you're going to be using I'm going to teach you technical perspective, 1 point, 2 point, 3 point. I'm going to teach you how to do it, like actually teach you, because boxes is not enough, guys. Like, we need to know more than just drawing boxes in perspective. Like, I don't see anyone apply perspective to their work at all. It's like people just learn to draw boxes and just leave it there. Week 3, this one's going to be really fun. So you're going to have to plot out the entire human skeleton and describe its functions. This is something I've covered in all of my character design classes because you need to know the skeleton. Like, you absolutely have to. So I'm going to show you the entire human skeleton and how it functions, which is going to give you most of the anatomy that you need to be a character designer or whatever. And then you're going to have to design a full cast of characters, but I'm going to limit it to 5 because we got to keep it reasonable in some way, for a personal project of your creation. So you're going to have to do IP development as well. You're going to have to do like a lot of IP development in this boot camp. And week 4 is going to be genre, aesthetic, and commanding style. So the assignment for that one is to complete 5 style studies. This is something I included in my last class, and it was a really big hit. Like, people grew a lot from it. So you can either do my recommendation of the styles you should follow. So I'll prepare some artists that will teach you a lot, or you can choose your favorite artists and go from there. And then it's not just that. You also have to script out a short story. And I mean very short, like a very short story, like a cat finds a fish on the beach, like that short, like a short story. As a storyboard, a comic, and a series of 3 illustrations. So like, you're going to learn how all of these different art forms work together. So this is great if you want to become a comic artist. You're going to learn so much here. And week 5, execution, application of new knowledge. This is going to be all about like just absolutely sending it, like everything you've learned, apply all of it. And we'll have 1 week of kind of like how just now we took a moment to discuss all of the personal development stuff. Like, that's all the things that are going to be in week 5. It's like pushing yourself on the path of mastery, critiquing your own work in a healthy way, seeing the end and the beginning in your personal and artistic endeavors. Like, that's a very important thing to know. The final assignment is going to be complete an impactful finished illustration that shows a clear narrative. So again, putting everything you've learned into practice here. This is going to be a super heavy course. It's going to be mostly doing. Like, you're going to be doing. And I'm going to be giving you a ton of theory lectures. So I'm going to be giving you 2 lectures a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. And again, like, those lectures are going to cover the intro to visual narrative, identifying, designing narrative. So you're going to learn about like static and active narrative, which is like super important. You're going to learn about point of view, perspective, and framing. So I'm going to teach you about all the classic film shots, why they work, and then how to design your own film shots, because people found those shots because they worked. So I'm going to teach you how to find what works for your project. Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. I'm really excited about this class. This one was kind of by request. So some people who went through my last class wanted to learn a lot more about the theory behind making comics, the theory behind like this kind of visual storytelling, visual narrative stuff. So this is like, if you guys are gym people, this is like a really intense like deadlift exercise. It's going to train all muscles of your body and just whip you into shape. The biggest benefit to an intensive course like this is going to be that you will be gaining a lot of really helpful data. Like, we talked about how we need actual like good data, because speculating on things that aren't true and that like you can't prove, it's not good. So because you're going to be doing so much art over these 5 weeks, you're going to see some serious improvement, and that's going to be really great in terms of generating and continuing momentum in your personal art journey. So like, I'm teaching you everything that I've learned that's made an impact on my journey here. I'm going to take you through all the different exercises you need, just everything you need. So this is going to be really exciting. This course actually came about because a lot of people learn to draw from concept artists online and kind of just naturally get steered towards concept art. And you'll learn like a ton for concept art in this class, but this will also connect you to a lot of the reasons why you got into drawing in the first place, which is just drawing is really cool and fun. And it's really cool to be able to like illustrate a character riding a dragon with dramatic lighting. Like, if you could do that, you would be excited. So I want you to be able to do that and not just, do concept art because you think you have to or something. Like, I want you to learn this stuff. This will only help you in all endeavors that you continue to do in your artistic journey. The kind of quick blurb is like, do you want to expand your understanding of what your sketches, illustrations, and concept art projects are capable of communicating? Do you feel stuck in your ability to express your ideas on the page in a clear and successful way? This high-intensity bootcamp will give you access to the knowledge and skills you need to create and compose compelling imagery for your personal and professional projects. So as you guys know, I do everything to my benefit and detriment. I do comic projects, world building projects, viz dev, concept art, illustration. I do all of it, and I love all of it, and I would have it no other way. So that's the jam. Another important element to this class that I really wanted to make sure everybody knew is that within these 5 weeks of rigorous study, participants should prepare themselves for the rapid ingestion of knowledge and acquisition of skill. So it's like you have to throw out everything you need, or you have to throw out everything you knew about how fast you can learn, because you're going to be learning much faster than you were before. And you need to accept and learn that that's possible on a continued basis. And you're going to be paying special attention to avoid getting stuck in old patterns. And this will be an opportunity for participants to fully embrace their agency in their creative passions and let go of fears, hesitations, and misconceptions that have kept them from advancing on their paths to mastery. Because again, we're trying to get to mastery. We're not trying to get to 100,000 followers on Instagram. We're not trying to get to, whatever we think is important. We're trying to get to mastery. Every good thing will come out of your pursuit towards mastery. This class is for the hungry and ambitious among you. I cannot stress that enough. That's super important. I also did a note from the instructor. You guys can read that on your own time if you want to. The link for this class is in the description. You can all go check it out if you wish. There are 2 tiers, importantly, 2 tiers to this class. There's one, which is mentorship and feedback. So if you want one-on-one mentorship, like if you really want one-on-one mentorship, you're going to have 3 sessions with me, really intense one-on-one stuff where we're going to figure out all of your personal goals. We're going to figure out what's been holding you back, what's going to push you forward. Again, I should have pulled up the testimonials so I could read some of these testimonials to you guys from people on the impact of the mentorship. And you're also going to get feedback. So for every assignment you do, you will get feedback. So for all the character design, prop, and environment stuff, you're going to get feedback from me. In an intense long-form feedback session. For the perspective one, you're going to get feedback from me. I'm going to check your perspective. I'm going to check everything, and I'm going to help you out. For the whole cast of characters, I'm going to give you feedback for that and on all elements. For the scripting out a story as a storyboard, a comic, and a series of illustrations, I'm going to critique you for that and make sure everything is on track. So it's a really extensive and intense form of feedback and mentorship that I know will benefit a lot of people. So I'm kind of debuting this now. There's a couple spots that I've mentally reserved, but I haven't actually gone in and reserved them yet. But spots typically for the mentorship and feedback go pretty quick. For the lectures only, you're going to get access to all of the lectures and the recordings to all the lectures. So you'll also be in all the live calls and you can still ask questions. So in the lectures, if you have a question, if you've bought this tier, you can still ask questions and I will answer your questions for the lectures and demos. And for feedback, you can watch the feedback, but your work isn't going to be receiving any feedback or anything like that. The reason I only did 10 mentorship spots is because it's all I have time for. I can only do 10. And also for the prices on both, I did the math and it's the literal lowest price I can offer and keep up with my expenses and all of that stuff. My philosophy around these classes is it's an amazing opportunity for me to try my material and help as many people as I can on a close-knit basis. I know a lot of people, especially overseas, outside of the West, who cannot afford a lot of the art classes that are available, especially with any kind of one-on-one feedback or one-on-one mentorship. So I always want to try and make this kind of education available for as many people as possible. If you have any questions about this class, you can reach out to me personally. You can reach out on Instagram. You can reach out, I guess, wherever. Instagram is probably the best spot. I'll be able to answer your question pretty quick there. You guys rule. And for those of you guys in the Patreon Discord, definitely check the Discord for announcements about the class, because, you know, you should get it through there for reasons. Anyway, just check. So you guys rule. And I'm not signing off yet, but I am going to end the course plug here. So, all right, let's hop back to the drawing of what we were doing. Thank you guys for sitting through that. I appreciate it. So let's hop back to Photoshop here. Bam, bam. Okay. So let's see. Wishbane says, wow, that sounds so cool. Dude, it is so cool. It's going to be so fun for me to teach. And again, whenever I do a class, it's always material that I'm just really excited about teaching. So Professor Buck says, blasts! March is con season. Oh, man. That's rough. Sorry to hear that. You could always get the lectures and listen back later if you want. Anne says, are we going to use Adobe? So if you're looking for help with software in particular, I would probably just look to like YouTube tutorials. That'll help you a lot more. This class, you can use anything you want. You can use Krita, Clip Studio, Procreate, Photoshop, whatever is your preferred medium. The class is going to be about like really intense art fundamentals for visual storytelling, visual narrative. So it's not really about software. It's about like the theories and techniques and knowledge. So it's like, I would say it's probably, gosh, how do I describe it? I would describe it in that, like, if you've really gotten into drawing and you love design and you want to be a professional and you feel like you're hitting a wall, and you've like seen anatomy videos, you've seen videos about concept art, you've seen videos about this stuff, but it's just not working for you, or you're not able to improve, like, that is the perfect person to take this class. Also, if you're somebody who is ramping up and trying to pierce through that professional bubble, like you're trying to just like kind of pierce through and get in there, it's also for those kind of individuals as well. So people who are like really on the precipice. Also, if you're an early professional and you just want to really hone your skills and, you know, like fact check yourself, and if you feel like you're kind of pigeonholed in one thing because you don't know perspective or you don't know how to do composition for illustration, like if you feel like you're stuck because you don't know something, you should take the class. It is like gonna help you so much. Yeah, and like most of all, just with your confidence. Like, it's going to help you with your confidence so much. Let's go! Absolutely right, Keegan. Let's go indeed. Thank you guys for hanging out while I plugged the course. And now we're back to drawing. Cool. Oh, let me put a link so you guys can check it out and like read the copy yourself. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Bam, bam. Oh, yeah, and if you guys want to check out or ask me any questions, I can answer all of your questions here. You can DM me here. Okay, cool. Cool. All right, so we've got one scout. He's kind of me in many ways. So we've got this kid here. It's kind of like he's kind of all poncho right now. There's not a lot of kind of technology here, which honestly I kind of like. It feels very me, if that makes sense. But let's add a couple things to this character that we're designing here. Keegan said Discord and courses are 11 out of 10. Highly recommend. Dude, thank you, man. Keegan's a long-time member of the Discord and participated in the courses and had some pretty epic improvement, if I do say so myself, man. Really proud of you and all your growth. You're killing it. Yeah. And one thing I'm glad about for the courses and the Discord community is that people are really comfortable just like DMing me and asking me questions, and I'm like really excited to answer those questions and like help you guys, because like I wish someone was looking out for me when I was trying to get better and develop. And when I was at art school, I had these teachers who, oh my gosh, I don't know. I had like three great teachers, and then the rest were just like, this is art school, man. But a lot of them, they would see my work and just go, oh, you know what you're doing, and just like leave. Like they wouldn't push me at all. And it was like this weird thing where like I just wasn't, yeah, bare minimum teachers. And also it was like this weird thing of like, they almost believed in like the cult of talent themselves. They're like, oh, you're gonna go far, you're fine. And like they wouldn't push me further. Like there was only a couple teachers that were actually like, you can do more, you can achieve more, you can go farther, like push harder. But they were very few and far between. Most of the teachers looked at me like I was an alien and just didn't talk to me. And it was weird. It was a weird time. Weird time for Gabriel. But yeah, it's that thing of like, you can be the best person in your art school, and then you kind of get out and you're in the world, and all of a sudden, there's like so many artists that are so good. And you realize that you should have trusted your gut when you were in art school, and you should have worked harder. You should have tried harder, because now you're just like everybody else, you know? It's an interesting thing. It's like once you actually get really good at drawing, you just look at everything differently, including yourself. It's like you're on this upward climb, just trying, really trying to like pierce the veil to the other side of just being able to draw. And you get to that side and you realize it's like another vast infinite space. And then you got to almost like start all over again in a weird kind of way, which is also cool. And I'm sure you get to that point and you realize there's even more. So and it says teachers at my school hated the good students. Dude, it's so weird. It's really, really weird. Ryan said literally same. I had this one dude who was a big traditional guy. He helped push me probably the most. A lot of the teachers were almost way too laid back. Yeah. Had a teacher that just sabotage your grades. Oh, dude. Yeah, that would suck way more if grades mattered at all in art. That's the funny thing is like the grades, man. Dude, chasing grades in art school is hilarious. Dude, I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about anything in art school. I just did exactly what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And I just lived in the life drawing lab, and I lived in the print studio, and I made a bunch of art, and I had a great time. It was awesome. But yeah, I did not care about the grades, man. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to take my A+ to Disney. And said I had a scholarship, so I was panicking. Oh, rough. Oh yeah, you probably went to school in the States. Dude, art tuition in the States is crazy. Like paying college tuition for art in the United States is insane. I think the only way to justify it is scholarship. But the only way they're able to give out scholarships is because so many students are paying full price. So it's like this weird thing where it's like, it's just weird. Oh, art school. Art school. Okay, we were really focused in the beginning of the stream, and we've really fallen off in terms of focus. I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break, guys. And I will be back soon. I'm going to grab probably like a soda or like some, I don't know. And I will be back. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. Okay. We are back, chat. We're back. Oh my gosh. You guys have been popping off in the chat when I was gone. Oh, damn. All right, let's see here. What have you guys said? It says crying every day because I didn't go to Europe or something. Dude, don't worry about it. The only reason I went to the UK is because I had UK citizenship, and boy, was it cheaper than the States, man. It was crazy. Buck says the one time I took an arts and crafts class, the teacher kept submitting my work into shows and told me after the rest has gotten theirs back. Dude, what? She moved schools and stole a sculpture? Yo. What a legend. Man, that's terrible. Keegan says, oh my gosh, I heard about a lot of that happening. Seems crazy to think about. Dude, some people, man, it's like their entitlement knows no bounds. It's kind of insane. Professor Buck says the campus library also has a permanent piece of mine above the desk, so not the best time in art class. That's pretty cool. Oh, that you're say. I mean, yeah, fair. I mean, when I visited my old boarding school in Canada, I went up for my best friend's wedding last summer, and when I went up there, I went back to my old high school to check it out, the boarding school, and dude, they have like 5 of my paintings all over the school. I was like, I kept turning corners and seeing my art and going, what, bro? I was like, what? It's crazy. And says trauma art dumping. Fair. I went to a mandatory artist talk for class credit, and the artist was a photographer who snuck into, oh my gosh. Dude, that's crazy. That's insane. That's an insane thing. So I'm gonna, just for obvious reasons, I'm gonna remove the message that you sent, just because I can't have that logged on one of my streams or something. However, that's crazy. That's a crazy thing. I think that's unreal. But yeah, that's unbelievable. That is unbelievable, man. No. It's okay. It's okay. You wouldn't know. It's a preference thing too for me. Like I care a lot about that stuff. Like I don't swear on stream, and there's a lot of stuff I don't do. So, gotta keep it accessible to everyone. It's interesting because, like, it's not that I have a problem with profanity. I don't have a problem with profanity, but the second you start, swearing and stuff, it's like you immediately cut out part of your audience immediately. And the goal for me is to, impact positively as many people as possible with these streams. So that's why I take such precautions in how I speak and what I talk about and all of that stuff. But yeah. Man, one thing I love about New York is they have Mexican Coke here. It tastes so different. Like, so different. And they have to put a sticker on it for the nutritional facts because the actual text on the bottle is in Spanish. But man, what a difference. I love it. You can't get it everywhere. Okay. Let's hop back to Artland. So yeah, so we're talking about costuming now. In particular, we're costuming this little mini me here, mini younger me. And man, when I was a kid, I had long hair. I loved having long hair. I had long hair when I was in uni for, I think, like a year or so. Like there was a time where I grew it back just to do it. And it was interesting. I think it would be better because I have a beard, so I feel like it would work more. But when I was a kid and I had long hair, dude, everybody thought I was a girl. Everybody. And it was interesting because my natural rebellious nature was always like, I was so ahead of the curve. And no one told me to be this way. It's not like anyone said like, oh, like you should, you should be, I don't know. I don't even know how to put that into words, but every time someone would be like, oh, dude, like they would mistake me for a girl, I would just be like, wow, I can't believe that person was so foolish as to think I was a girl. How small-minded and feeble-minded they must be to think that men can't have long hair. And I was like a little kid, but I was like thinking those thinking those thoughts. The inner workings of my dark and twisted mind. They can't comprehend it. How dark and twisted I was to grow my hair out and have those opinions. Long-haired boys unite. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm thinking I'm going to grow my hair out again at some point in the near future. I don't know when. But like I said, I got the beard now. And the beard, I don't know. I feel like it wants long hair, It's just a feeling I have. I feel like it's got to happen. Do I have my... No, okay. As a long-haired boy myself, the feeling is amazing. So true, Keegan. So true. I love that this is now just turned into a long-haired vibe. Okay, so we've sketched out a potential scout. We've sketched out the scout. Sketch out, yo, scout, girl. Heck yeah. There you go. I feel like this is getting to where I want it to be. And this drawing in particular is feeling really good. Like I like the stick for no reason, as Ryan said. I like the very simple kind of cloth textile vibe. And I like that we've got this nice balance of kind of like poofy pants into kind of like a longer kind of boot style leg, or like a kind of like a wrapped leg. I think that look is really good. It's a good look. The kind of sort of boot style thin-legged kind of thing. So I think silhouette-wise, that feels pretty good. Keegan says, just curious, is this project stepping off from where the last Discord project was? So, yeah, we did a Discord project. We did a Discord world building project all together. That was really fun. It was kind of like the sci-fi Dune-based world, and I'll probably show those videos or show that artwork that we did for that at some point and maybe wrap up some stuff. But this is actually a separate thing. So this is for the server itself. So like the Discord server is called the Valley of the Brave. And I've got a lot of plans for the community. I've got a lot of plans for what we're doing. But one of the motifs or the kind of tier for the Valley of the Brave of like when you join is you're a scout, And again, the vibe is very much specifically towards discovery, right? We're trying to think of world building, concept art, illustration as discovering new things. So I wanted some like visualized branding to go with that. In the future, what I'd like to be able to do is for people in the community to be able to get like a hat, and the hat has like the Scout logo on it, and it has like some other stuff, and or like a t-shirt that has like the Scout aesthetic on it or something, and things like that, where people who are part of the community can actually like rep the colors, like rep the vibe. So that's something that I'm working towards, to where we've actually got like a cool aesthetic around like the brand of like what we do, because like we just want to improve in art and become incredible designers and illustrators through like joy and being inspired. Like that's the vibe. I wrote down some notes earlier. Let me see if I can pull out the notes from my... You guys got to look at my... the bag I take everywhere. Let me switch cameras for a second here. Let's swap over to face cam. Yeah, there we go. Check out this bag. This is my everyday bag. It's like the thickest grade of leather you can buy. Look how thick. Look at that. Oh, dude. holding my laptop's in here, so it's a little heavy. But it's an intense bag, man. Snoozy J said like a scout Sona. Okay, we're not going to call it that. That's not what we're going to call it. But yeah, kind of. You design yourself as a scout, or like or the embodiment of your personality, or an element of your personality. Like, it's kind of like, when people like draw your fears and then like draw like your higher self or something, kind of like that, I'm definitely going to be doing a few scouts that embody the full scope of who I am. But I have my notes here, so whenever I go out and I always write in like my folio here, which is pretty epic. It's got my notes and my drawings that I have that I always keep in this thing. Anyway, I gotta do like an everyday carry video for what I do for like art and stuff when I go out. I feel like that would be fun. But yeah, okay. So I made some notes. And specifically around the scout stuff, because I wanted to really lock it down. Yeah, so like some of the main adjectives I was thinking about was, or like some kind of virtues, were courage, perseverance, curiosity, and joy. And I kind of boiled that down to unyielding courage and joyful curiosity. That's pretty good. I mean, don't you want to be part of the art community that has unyielding courage and joyful curiosity? Isn't that way better than we're hardcore concept artists, dude. We draw a lot and it's hard surface and we joke around all the time and we are inappropriate all the time. Nah, dude. That's not the way. We are enlightened beings. We're human beings. We deserve more than this. I don't know how it happened, but like the concept art bros like took over for a bit, man. It was kind of crazy. I don't know how did that happen? How did we let that happen? Anyway, we got to reclaim the vibe. I remember when I was first getting back into the online art scene, when I was younger, man, every online space was it was so verbally abusive. And like there was this constant like okayness about it. You know what I mean? And it's one thing if you're like really close friends, and you kind of joke around once in a while. But dude, this was something else, man. It was like a hyper aggression with strangers. I just couldn't understand it because we're artists, It's crazy. Anyway, and it also creates an awkwardness because there was a lot of people who were really hostile with me like early on and me kind of figuring out who I was online. And it's like, as success continues to find me, it's like, it's weird talking with them because like they code switch and they want to act like they weren't super aggro towards me. They want to act like everything's chill and they've always been my best friend ever. And it's weird. It's super weird, man. Anyway, oversharing a bit there. I don't really have any ill will towards anybody. I just want to make good art and live a good life. That's my jam. Yeah, I'm also wanting to build hype now because I'm doing my March class, but at some point I want to say, gosh, I'm hoping for late April, but I'm going to do my first self-study class. So this is one, it's going to be an asynchronous class, and it's going to be pretty short. It's going to be perspective for character design. So it's going to be for people who don't know how to apply perspective in their designing of characters and their illustration of characters. So it's going to be super helpful for people who are stuck in that rut, as it were. And I'm really looking forward to doing it, man. It's going to be really fun. Okay. Yeah, that one's going to be cool. Yeah, and it's going to be a more concise, more like affordable thing. Because like not everybody wants like a complete character design class at all times. So I want to release some self-study materials that are a bit more modular. Like you can just get the perspective module for, however much. Right now in my brain, I'm thinking $75. Like that feels pretty good for like a pretty intense course. I want to say like, I don't know, probably 5-ish hours of content, assignments, some written materials. Like that feels pretty good. But obviously as I continue to develop it, it'll be more obvious what I should price it at, but nothing insane. Okay, I feel like I'm just kind of sort of noodling on this. I mean, the noodles are working though. It's looking kind of better and better. I also want to do, I think, like a sash of some kind that's going around the pants. Like he's got like a cool belt sash thing. That feels right. Or is it better if it's just pants? Yeah, that feels good too. I could also do the nice kind of split pant thing where it kind of comes up on either side with the buttons. That kind of goes hard. That kind of goes pretty hard. Wait a minute. Goes pretty hard, dude. Not gonna lie. It's pretty good. Professor Buck says, gotta make him believe it's not that. Oh, dude. No, it's just Scout Zone is the wrong word. It's the wrong word, dude. Because it's just that the associations with that kind of style of wording are just not good associations, man. They're just not good. Not good for the human mind. We've also got Anne says, I hold grudges. Oof. I mean, like, yeah, I don't know if I hold grudges, but I definitely remember things. But I just, it's like one of those things where it's like you just don't. I don't know. It's like if you throw something into a pit, or you throw something into what you think is a basket, but really it's just a pit and it just disappears. You just don't throw anything in there again. So it's like I just don't spend time with people who it's just like an endless drain. And also, it's like, dude, we're all so different and we're all so similar, but we are really all so different. And sometimes it's just not a match, like a personality match or a vibe match. Like, it's just not a match. Like, I kind of realized that recently where there was a lot of really incredible concept artists and artists I was spending time with and I was getting to know. But some of the stuff they would draw, it was so inappropriate and like vulgar that I just couldn't hang out anymore. Like I couldn't enjoy my time with them anymore. It would just get to the point where it was just such an extreme and I just didn't want to be around that. And it's interesting because after I realized that I just really didn't want to be around that kind of vibe anymore, like I just started streaming and like making my own art community. Because, like, surely there must be people who don't want so much vulgarity in their life all the time. Like, it's already in every movie and everything we see ever, kind of gratuity and vulgarity. It's like, there's enough of it, Difference in morality. Yeah, I guess so, Anne. I guess so. And it's also like, you can sort of, kind of advocate for yourself in a way that's not through judging others. Like it just wasn't for me, it just wasn't for me. And it just wasn't for like my heart and my soul personally. Like it wasn't energizing me or anything. It was just making me kind of stressed out and uncomfortable. So it's just good to check in with yourself on that stuff and make sure that you're in alignment with your heart, I guess, which is very fluffy language, but it is true, you know, fluff aside, it is just true. Because if you put yourself in a state of cognitive dissonance, you're gonna pay for it at some point. Yeah. All right. The young Gabriel character here he's kind of rocking. I kind of like him a lot. He is missing having a knife though, which is kind of like a signature. Like it kind of needs to have a knife. Jay says, I participate in some online art communities, and sometimes it surprises me how comfortably some people intensely swear in groups of strangers. Yeah, like that, or like just they bring up just insane stuff. I think that one of the problems with online art spaces, like particularly Discord and stuff, is like you only have voices, and a lot of artists are like very individual based people. They're very to themselves. Like I won't use the word introverted because like I feel like maybe that word is used to describe too many things at once. But I think that because artists are so like to themselves, really, a lot of the time, like many of their ideas are kind of like sort of untested, or they haven't spoken to enough people in their life, just in general, which I think is like a real thing. Like I think that you should really speak to enough people in your life, like, and you know, I feel like they haven't spoken to enough people and find themselves in a position where, you know, they have pretty extreme views, but they don't know how extreme they are because they've just been in like a vacuum of like, you know, like inappropriate like animation content and like, you know, just hyper extreme internet content that just kind of like makes you feel like that is normal. And then you kind of enter into online spaces and just kind of assume that everyone else is that way, when, you know, in reality, it's like to choose the path of an artist, it's like a deeply, in my opinion, a deeply spiritual thing. And to try and remove like the spiritual component of it is like, and like replace it with like, you know, I don't know, like hyper intensity and gratuity is like, I just don't know, man. It just feels kind of, I don't know, something about it just feels off to me personally. Anyway, the last thing I ever want to do is, you know, all I want to do with these streams is just positively impact people. That's the only thing I want to do. So I don't want to alienate anybody or make anybody feel weird. T. Miller says, I'm really glad to be studying concept art in a city that is quite progressive. That's great. Feels like the core of art is still there in the values. That's fantastic. I'm really happy to hear that. That's really great. Okay. Damn, I really like this drawing. Dude, this scout drawing, I'm like loving this drawing. This is like so cool. I really like this drawing a lot. I like the shapes a lot. I'll tell you what I like. I like how we've got this nice through line here going from this foot up into this kind of like hair, kind of almost like a cowlick thing coming up from the bang. I also like how that shape here is kind of like accentuated by the kind of poncho here. There's like a lot of really nice relationships with lines. A lot of nice X's too. Some great X's. I ended up offsetting the staff. It was a perfectly flat before, but I ended up angling it slightly, and I think that really helped. Really, really helped. And then I just like the overall design. I think it's really strong. I think we've got kind of like an Echo style pocket watch thing here, which is also kind of cool. I think Echo is like just the coolest character. I think he's just the coolest character design ever, man. Echo's so cool. So definitely don't mind a cool hanging object. It's pretty sick. And says the flow of the line strokes is the best part of drawing. I agree. Couldn't agree more. So I like this sketch. This is going to be fun to ink and then to color for sure. We can do a loose color now, actually. Just to kind of, yeah, lock some of this down. So we can grab our handy dandy color key here that we made earlier. How useful is that? Fantastic. Look at that. We can try out some stuff. So I think for the body, again, we'll go with a kind of this neutral green. Because again, these are like scouts who are trying to blend in and like not really be seen that much, you know, like kind of just be one with their environment in a way, and much more earth toned. So we can kind of build up those different areas. But then we also have like the fun and like the splash of color that we love so much from designs like this. Because we really do love the splash of color in designs like this. They're just so cool. Cool. Let's see what our timing's at. All right, we're over 2 hours, about 2:20. We'll probably call it at about 3 hours. So in about 40 minutes, I think we'll call the stream. But for now, let's keep going. We're kind of on a roll here, which I like a lot. When I was a kid, I had really light blonde hair. But as I got older, it kind of went more of like an ash blonde, almost like to a slight brown. So we'll keep some, we'll erase some. So we haven't done the clean line art for this, but I just kind of wanted to experiment with color a lot here to again get that nice earthy tone and add in some of those cool pops of color that we're really going to go for in this design. All right, we'll have to go for a darker value for the stick. It's a different kind of foreign object. And when I was a kid, my dad, he would get these nice long sticks and he would like paint these cool stripy designs on them. And I think that's probably where some of my kind of aesthetic temperament comes from. Comes from my dad and all the kind of strange eccentric things he did. He was a musician and he was an abstract painter. My mom was a singer-songwriter when I was a kid, so lots of stuff going on. think I'll take that darker green, and that's what I'll do, like the main kind of hood. Nah, it's got to be less saturated, like this. Yeah, could even give him like a cool, like an orange scarf. Now I feel like we need to lean into the yellow for this design a bit more. We could even do the rim of this cloak as this nice yellow color. That feels really nice. We could even kind of tone down some of the other elements in this drawing. I think even for the staff, we might want to keep it somewhat kind of monochromatic. That feels pretty cool. And then we can do an orange for like the cool device here. Yeah, that feels right. Nice blue ring on the inside. Some kind of mechanical capabilities. All right, so we've got a cool drawing here. And again, this is kind of like the combination that we're sort of thinking about, this sort of organic, very round shape for the technology, and then very, very kind of organic, handmade feel to a lot of the clothes and stuff. Like that's kind of the vibe we're going for here. Cool. I wonder, I always want to check and see if it actually worked. Oh yeah, nice. Okay, cool. Wanted to make sure the announcement went through. Oh, we had someone join the Discord during the call. Amazing. Welcome. Welcome to the Discord. Let's go. Alternatively, we could do the hood as like a red thing. Ooh, that kind of goes hard, not gonna lie. What if we did a combination of like the rim was red, but then this was kind of gray? Like the edges were red. That kind of goes hard too. No, but that works pretty well. Gosh. Anyway, just a sketch. We don't have to think too hard about it. But then, of course, we want to do our multiply layer. And, whoa. Hello. Add in some shadows here and there. Okay. Let's do that. Just adding that 1 degree of shadow, it just makes such a difference for designs like this. It brings them to life in a really kind of subtle but effective way. Just adding that little bit of shadow adds a lot. Heck yeah, man. All right, that's pretty cool. Oh, he's so cute. Let's go. All right, I don't think I'm sold on the coif thing here, doing this. I think we gotta recolor it a little bit. I think maybe something darker, or what if we do this? How would this look? Oh, oops, not doing 100%. It's kind of a lighter green. Yeah, that works. I like that a lot, actually. I've said that about every iteration I've done. All right, we'll go with a darker value. For now, we can always go back and retry, retread, try some new stuff out. Let's go to here. And add a little bit of shadow there. All right, that's working pretty well for now. So we'll leave that as is. But what I wanted to also do was do some silhouette breakdowns, because I wanted to kind of set some shape precedents for the kind of IP and the kind of stuff we're going to be doing. What is this? Yeah, fun sketch. Okay, nice. All right, cool. It's too much. So I'm thinking. I want like a lot of the designs to focus around helmets a lot. So I think for like the silhouettes, if we have some more kind of like helmet forward ones. And I'm just going to scribble out some kind of macro shapes here. If we could have that same design, kind of like the poncho sort of style, where it kind of comes out a bit. And then has that nice sort of loose to tight aesthetic. Right, that feels nice. Has a nice overall shape profile. Feels pretty strong. Feels pretty cool. But then we also want to think about some other designs. One thing that I am really into the idea of is like, so we have like a kind of a top knot sort of character or something. You know, we can give them like a cool hood and then give them, you know, whatever they need. It's a bit smaller. And then I'm thinking like they could have a cool kilt as well. Like I like the idea of incorporating like a cool kind of kilt motif into some of these designs. That just feels really sick. I feel like we don't use kilts enough. Maybe this guy's our archer here. Or maybe he's got his binoculars. Oh, binoculars are a really cool accessory. I feel like that's going to be a really nice one. Definitely want to give a lot of these scouts binoculars. And again, we want the head ratio to be good because we want these characters to be kind of a little bit on the younger side. Like, again, all of those kind of shows and media that we love, all the characters are always like, you know, on that very early side of adulthood. Even stuff like Attack on Titan and like, you know, Naruto and just like, I mean, a lot of shonens obviously have that vibe of just those kind of like that younger cohort of characters in a very serious position or in a very mature position at the very least. Maybe some of them we give kind of more broad boots or something. But yeah, I'm thinking the cool like tech belt into kilt combo is going to be pretty sick. And yeah, thinking about the kilt as like a metaphor for, or like a visual for leaves as well, it's going to be like super important. Having those nice shapes in there. See, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking we could do somewhere. Think about like kind of a pack, some kind of like backpack style scouts. Maybe their pants go all the way down. They don't have the cloak thing or the kilt thing, which means you can get more descriptive with like what they're carrying. Maybe they've got like a cool, like a hung blade here for like whacking foliage or something cool. And we kind of employ again that same aesthetic of like the really nice soft edge blade vibe where you know it's sharp, but you also know it's like not for murder, you know? Give them more of a substantial kind of radio here. It's always fun to do these really small scribbles. Maybe give them like a big goggles helmet. And maybe we give him some really big hair too. I love giant hair on a character like this. Oh yeah, look at that. That's so fun. Hell yeah. I hope I didn't, oh gosh. I don't want to get a noise complaint. I think that was pretty loud. All right, cool. Cool. All right. I feel like we could also foresee a style where it's like just a lot more kind of like cat suit vibe where it's like very tight to the body. Maybe just a little bit of give on the pants, but that's kind of it. Kind of with the hair out, but maybe they've got some kind of goggles on or something. Maybe they've got use of like a cool glider that they like hold on to or something. Maybe it like folds down a bit. Very like Aang core, which I love. I love Avatar. Avatar's so cool. And again, thinking about those, oh, it kind of naturally fits with our aesthetic too. The kind of like long glider with the half circle motif. Maybe we got to make it a little bit different so it's not exactly the same. But I like that idea of like the big glider thing. That or something. We can do a better glider for sure. Yeah, there we go. Keegan says, heading out, but have a great rest of your stream. It's looking exciting. Yo, thanks, Keegan. Appreciate it. You rule, dude. Enjoy. All right, cool. Ooh, or do we have the cool design where it's like coming out of the side, like kind of a bat wing thing? That's kind of cool. Nah, we'll stick with the classic for now. From the center. Or, wait, do we take that kind of primitive triangle that we like? Because we love the primitive shapes. So this could totally be like a cool triangle design. Oh, heck yeah. That looks great. Yeah, that looks better. I like that a lot. Swing. Nice. Maybe a cool helmet wearing character who has like big kind of saddlebags, which I like the big kind of side bag look. But it'd be cool if those bags were like connected to maybe like a couple creatures, like they have friendly creatures that are in their employ. That's pretty cool. Because we've established they're friends with animals, right? From the original sketch. She's friends with the bird. What's to stop this one from being friends with a couple of snoofers or whatever, you know? If they're snoofers, they need 6 legs. So there we are. Nice. Wow, we're coming up with a lot of fun ideas here. I feel like we're just getting to the juice. Okay, so these pages we're going to continue to refine. I'll probably do another stream on this in particular, like this kind of thing that we're doing, the kind of style guide thing. I think it's a really fun theme. And again, I really want to finish this before the course start date so that it can be part of those final lectures on kind of style and genre. It's going to be a really cool case study, especially in terms of like for how much you can do in a short period of time. I'm planning on getting all of this done very quickly. So as a kind of like a tester to see like, hey, you can do it too. Like you're allowed to do it. Cool. So we got young Gabriel here, which I love this design so much. This is very me, and I feel really good about this this drawing. It makes me a little bit emotional actually, which I think is the intended outcome. We've got some cool silhouettes we're thinking about here. We've thought about the shape design, and the kind of props versus what we don't want to see, and what the things that we're not interested in. We took a close look at color and kind of designing a nice color palette. So we've made some headway in a couple hours, I think, which is nice. We're definitely going to want to keep pushing this stuff. I think for the last bit of the stream, though, I think what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to open a cool thing that I started working on. I mean, you guys remember the 1 hour challenge stream that I did last week? Not last week. Wasn't it few days ago? Anyway, I did that stream for the 1 hour challenge, and then I did another 1 hour challenge, which was so much fun. And I've been designing these characters, which I can't seem to. Actually, now that I see this one with fresh eyes, I like this version a lot. Yeah, I'll probably just go with this one. But I started fleshing out these characters that I think are really fun. These guys are really, really fun. But the body's so clean in this last one. All right, I might copy this guy over because I like it so much. But there is something to be said for the other design, I think. There's something about it that I kind of like. What do I like about it? Let me see. Oh, you know the head tilt? That ever so slight head tilt? It actually matters. Damn, it just goes to show when you're over editing something and you're making all these micro adjustments, like, it's so easy to lose kind of where you are, I guess. Lose the vibe. And then there was another thing. It was like the it's like this shape going like up and over was important for some reason, which I'm only seeing in comparison. Okay, this one just needs to turn a little bit more up. Okay, cool. Gobshark asks how to draw in color or paint shape. Color sold? Oh, like solid color, like how to do like color silhouettes and then paint shapes. I mean, you kind of sort of said it in your question. You just, you know, you paint in the color, you paint in the shape, and you paint in with solid color. I don't know if there's much more to it than that. There could be, but I don't know. Okay, I did some more rendering on the head in this version. Oh, this is just such a better version, I think. How to draw in color solid paint shapes. Maybe could you expand on the question, Gobshark, if you could? That would probably help me explain if you could. Oh yeah, but let me tell you a little bit about this piece, which I think is pretty fun. I'm just going to noodle on it for a little bit before I go off stream. But this was cool. The references for this 1 hour challenge were, I will show you, were these really strange and cool references, in my opinion. I think they're kind of sick. But yeah, so this was cool. We had a cool teapot, brass head thing, and then some swords and some statue guys. So I kind of, again, took those elements. This time, I mean, you saw in the last one, I was super analytical about, you know, how I was describing things and what I was doing. And in this one, it was really straightforward. It was kind of like something to do with like the big head thing and the brass material and the thing. But I did this little noodle sketch here, and I was like, oh, I'll just do that. So I sketched this out initially, which I think honestly is probably better than what I have now. But a giant bell with legs just didn't really do it, I think. But I kept pushing and changing and pushing and getting things down and, you know, trying things out until I was able to get to this current version, which I like quite a lot. I think it's got a good balance of shapes and tensions and all of that stuff. I think the only thing with this one is I want to do some cool like texture-y things because I like the subtle red that was there before. I want to keep some of that subtle red in there. Yeah, that looks nice. I like that a lot. Yeah. Heck yeah. Oh, yeah, that looks good. That looks really good. Gobshite says, I meant to do the painting work through the effect color solid mask. Color solid mask. Okay, think I'm still a little confused. But I mean, it sounds like you know kind of what you mean in terms of like doing an effect, like using a mask effect to do kind of color stuff. If it's something that I've done, I'm sure you could rewind and see. But I think I am not 100% certain what you mean. Color solid mask, eh? Do you mean like using, like doing like a solid shape and then kind of like painting it out in a way? Like, do you mean that kind of thing where you're sort of painting from from one shape into kind of another shape thing? That's all I can really think about if with what you said. Kind of like how Cynics works in a way. Like something kind of like this, where it's like you're working in a solid shape and then you're kind of painting it in a little bit. I don't know. I'm doing my best here. Something like that, maybe. I guess. But that's just painting. I think, I really don't know what you are meaning. Anyway, good luck. Good luck with your painting in masks. I think if I were to give you any advice, it would just be to just start painting and trying to get things down on paper in a good way that you like. And you'll be okay, I think. Thanks. Yeah, sure. Sure, man. I think don't be afraid to just try and see how things go. Like you're going to have to try at some point. Might as well be now, I guess. Yeah, the way I'm painting now, just so you know, like is I did a rough sketch, like a very rough sketch form of the thing where I had black lines and I painted underneath the black lines. And then in this version, what I'm doing is I'm painting like over those black lines, and now I'm just straight painting. So that's the process I'm using now of just basically I'm just putting tone down, essentially. Trying things out, kind of bringing things forward and pushing things back with line and color. Yeah. I think the hardest part about painting is like the first, I think, couple of years of like trying to get good at painting. I think that's the hardest part, are those first couple of years, because you really don't know what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right. Sometimes your paintings look good, sometimes your paintings are not looking so good, and it's just kind of confusing because you don't really know what the through line is. When things go well, you can't really articulate why it went well. And yeah, you'll have a bit of a hard time there in that case. But that's just art, man. Art takes a long time to understand. A lot of effort, a lot of paintings. But as long as you're curious and you keep going, you'll be good. Schwim 2011 says, how do decide which style to use for a project? I'm influenced by way too many styles / approaches, and my style isn't apparent to my own eyes. Well, the first thing I'll say is I'm going to cover that really in depth in the class I'm doing in March. A short Cliff Notes version I can try to tell you now. I think that, if you want to, there are many ways to define style. For the purpose of this question, I think defining style as I think limiting or I think like choosing specific modes of communicating visual information. So like if you are displaying visual information in a very specific way, that's one way of describing what style is. So for instance, we just did a couple things, right? So this, I'm like painting this out and I'm showing a lot of texture. So I'm using light and texture as a mode of describing this information of like these guys, right? So I've got some specular highlights just showing the metallic of like the Bell helmets that they're wearing. And I'm using some softer strokes and some softer elements to describe the cloth, right? It's not reflecting any bright highlights, so it's not shiny. And the shadows are quite deep and dark. So I'm using a kind of a realistic style of lighting to show these designs, where I've got like the cast shadows and the fill light illuminating those shadows. So I'm using a lot of light information here. If I showed you like a clip from Naruto, they would not have the same way of describing information, right? It would be like line art, and then it would be some cell shading for shadows. And then for metal, maybe they do like a specular highlight layer, but most likely they wouldn't even do that. So that's usually, style usually responds to the limitations of your medium, because you can't paint every single frame of an animated show. It would just be too much for the budget. It just wouldn't make sense. I don't think it would make enough money to be sustainable. So when you're deciding what style to use for a project, I think ask yourself, what kind of information is important to this project? For instance, for this one, the metallic texture of the metal was really important for these characters. So painting here in kind of like a loose way, but still a very descriptive way, is advantageous for this project. However, if I wasn't as interested in showing the metallic texture of the helmet of this character and some other elements, if the textures weren't as important, I might just do line art and just leave it there. Like there's a world in which this is enough, like this is technically enough to describe what's going on. but I wanted to push it and polish it into kind of a stronger and more interesting illustration. But kind of hopping back to what we were doing earlier, something like this, it doesn't need that much painting, you know? Like, you really just need some lines. I could even just leave it like this and it would be kind of okay. But going back in and doing some line art will definitely help this. But this will be very much like a line art based style. There's certain things that line art can do that painting can't do in terms of like appeal. Like, if they did a realistic animation of a Ghibli movie, it wouldn't work. Like, Spirited Away wouldn't work as like a 3D animated movie. It certainly wouldn't work as a live action movie. It just can't. It has to be 2D animated with that style of Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki. It has to be that way. So I think like when you get a stronger sense of what styles are advantageous for certain stories, that will help you hone in on your style. One thing that you said earlier is my style isn't apparent to my own eyes. Again, it's like, how do you define style? Oftentimes style can be boiled down to subject matter, you know, like what kind of things do you draw? Do you find there's a consistency in the kinds of things you draw? That will influence your quote style, or your style warps around the kind of things you draw, right? There was a long time where I wasn't drawing like knights in shining armor, and when I would, it wouldn't work. And when I started painting, all of a sudden I started painting these knights in shining armor because I could all of a sudden, whereas I couldn't before because I didn't have the skill of painting. But once I got the skill of painting, all of a sudden I was able to draw these knights in shining armor, and it was cool because I've always wanted to be able to draw knights in shining armor ever since I was a kid. I've been wanting to be able to draw that. But yeah, so for you, I think I honestly wouldn't worry about it too much right now. I wouldn't worry too much about style if I were you. I would worry about the quality of the information that you're describing. So like if you're describing, if you're describing like a character design, it's like pay attention to what you're doing. Like, how much are you able to express in the face? How much are you able to express in the body language? Like, focus on that stuff, because I think like the subject matter and how much you care about it and describe it matters a lot more about than choosing a style. Oftentimes your style will warp around the kinds of things you draw, what you like to draw, and the purpose for the things that you like to draw. Okay, that's too intense, but I like it there though. That's kind of nice. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, it's like, if a good example is the Dr. Seuss books. Like if you read the Dr. Seuss books, you wouldn't think that it, like, if they rendered out those as like actual paintings, you would just be like horrified. The Dr. Seuss books, it would make absolutely no sense and you'd be kind of spooked out. But because they're this janky, strange style, it works like better than it would if it was like a realistic or more carefully drawn style. But it's kind of like this sort of haphazard thing, you know? They write, thank you so much. I think it's mainly the painting approach / method and that having an effect on the style. Yeah, it's true. So like, yeah, again, it's tough. I mean, I think that choosing, it's never going to work. Choosing a style is never going to work because, well, I don't know if that's true, but it didn't work for me. I think for me, my painting style keeps growing and adapting based on what kinds of things I find myself drawing and painting. I find myself caring a lot about shape. So the kind of light that I choose to paint is usually based around shape. And the quality of the textures, for some reason, matters to me a lot these days. I care a lot about texture because I think those details help the idea sink into someone's mind really well. Like if the textures are super clear, I feel like it just grounds the design really well in someone's brain. Like these guys, like the bells, I just want those to really just make sense instantly in a cool way. That's just my own goals, though. Yeah, happy they're helpful. I mean, I would I'm not qualified to do a painting course, but even if I was, I wouldn't. Ahmed Al Duri already did a painting course, and it's amazing. If you guys haven't taken Med's Map, dude, cannot recommend that enough. It's so good. Yeah, Med's Map is so good. Highly recommend it. Plus, he's just such a G, dude. Ahmed Al Duri is such a G. I learned so much from that guy. He's a true OG. Gobshark says, what pipeline in game graphics for props? You want to know the design pipeline for props for games? I mean, it depends on the game. Depends on the studio. But largely, the pipeline for things are usually pretty similar in that you have your rough ideas, which are based on either some prompt or no prompt, either one. Prompt or no prompt, as kind of like a branching thing. You have those rough ideas. Then, in consultation with your art director and game designers and whichever, you polish those props. So with visual art. So sometimes, depending on the style of the game, if it's a realistic game, you have to paint things very realistically from angles that can be understood. So like you need to do like a 3D angle that shows all the forms and usually a backside as well, just in case. Usually you don't have to render out the backside though. And then that goes to a 3D artist. Once it goes to a 3D artist, they sculpt it out. They check back with you or the AD to make sure it's on model and everything's looking good. And then when you have that 3D asset finished, it gets given to the devs and they put it in the game. So that's how it goes. But it starts with rough ideas and then it's like polished in some way. So for instance, like if you were doing a game that was like super low poly, then the concepts are going to look very different from the concepts that are going to come out of like Guerrilla Games or something for like Horizon Zero Dawn. Like the stuff for Horizon Zero Dawn is going to have to look really realistic in order to pass through their pipeline, which doesn't mean you have to like render it out perfectly, but like a lot of photo bashing and a lot of texturing, and that's how that's going to get made typically. But I haven't worked that much in props. I've done props for a game before, but it was pretty bare bones. It wasn't super descriptive. It was just a lot of design. So, it was a lot of just like drawing. Schwim says, I think that's a good way to approach it. I'll have to write this down. The things that I find myself feeling it really important, and then finding methods that help me communicate that. Exactly. That's exactly right, man. I think also what's good with painting is like people are really afraid, and I say people because it was me at one point, was really afraid of many elements of painting because I just didn't know how to describe certain things. I just didn't know. I didn't know how to render out metal or cloth or anything like that. And then it's kind of like, I remember for me, a big aha moment was realizing that so much of what you're doing is light. Like so much of it is light. Most of it is light, in my opinion. And what that means is that, for instance, like with these drawings here, right, we have areas that are devoid of light. For instance, where there is cast shadow. So with this big guy here, right, there is cast shadow and kind of lack of shadow, like a void, a true void. There's a specific name for it, but I don't remember it. And then there's the areas where we'll put a little bit of blue in there so you can see the cast shadow. And then there's areas where the light is the cast light, like the where the light is coming from, isn't able to reach those areas. So the difference between these two values are pretty extreme, right? Because one has access to light, one doesn't. And then ambient occlusion, I think, is a word that you could use for that. There is an actual name for the specific kind of shadow, like when they do like anatomy of a shadow and stuff. I just always forget it. But it's like, I always say a crevice. I always use the word crevice because because no light can get into the crevice. But yeah, so there's that relationship, right? So then you have a local value, and which is kind of like the value that is being illumined by the light, and then you have the local value devoid of light, which is going to be just naturally a little bit darker. And you can balance depending on how bright the light is or what the material is. Like, I learned a lot by looking at, for instance, like light material, like a beige. The shadow for a beige is going to be like really minute. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be like this. It's not going to be black. But most people will shade this kind of material or this color with a black, and they'll go, "Oh, I'm time to add shading," and it just looks so non-realistic. But again, the darkest this can be in like a neutral lighting zone, not being hit by direct light, is this color. Versus another thing, which is like metal, which can reflect, a shiny piece of metal reflects both highlights and shadows. So like it can reflect really dark shadows, which is I think the last step in this one that I haven't done yet in terms of adding in some big shadows to the backside, just like a couple big shadows to show that this thing is shiny and all that stuff. And I'll work it into all these shapes back here when I have time. But metal can reflect big shadows, but that's different than when something's wet. If something is wet, it's going to grab specular highlights. So if this was like a wet material, you're going to see some kind of highlights go across where the light would be hitting on certain edges and whatnot. You know what I mean? If you want to make something look wet, you just add specular highlights to it in kind of a little way. And you can even do little droplets kind of dropping down and around the edges and whatnot. That's how you make something look wet, right? Among other things too. But a wet object isn't going to necessarily grab shadows like metal will. So that's one telltale that something is metal, is that it reflects the brightest highlights and the darkest shadows. But also, which clothes don't do. Clothes don't get specular highlights unless, again, they're like a glossy satin kind of thing. If I wanted this to feel like a satin garment, then I wouldn't go to white, but I would go to a much brighter form of green. I would kind of work up to it, up to like maybe even this tone, something like that. That would tell you that this is kind of a more velvety material, right? That's what that would do. It would never go to white though. It would never capture the true tone of the light around it, but it would get kind of close. It would get quite light, right? And the way you know that is because you've seen it. So it's like when you understand how light behaves, you can just remember kind of how things look. Like leather, a shiny leather that has been oiled and finished in a certain way will have specular highlights. And the darkest shadows will be whatever the local value is. If it's a black belt, it'll be black. If it's a shiny leather. If it's a matte leather, it will catch highlights, but the highlights will be very minute, very subtle. And the shadows will be very subtle as well. So those are just certain things that helped me a lot with painting. And then kind of how I painted it, sort of a lot of it depended on what brush I was using. A lot of it depended on how I was feeling that day. And a lot of it's just experimentation. I feel like my painting style is a lot less mature than my drawing style. But I'm working on it just by drawing more, or painting more rather. But yeah. Cool. I think it's time to slowly wrap up, guys. Oh yeah, we went over time. So I'm glad we got to do a little bit of painting though, and just kind of check out some of these guys that I'm working on. They're pretty cool. I like them a lot. They're interesting, I think, because like they're both have bell helmets. One of them is obviously more pointy. The other one's bigger. I think even though the one design had these slats, I think I want to simplify this design and just making it totally like a matte material or like a flat design. Like I feel like that's a much stronger shape, and there was no real reason why I had the other design there. Plus what I can do is I can add in more of these tones to the design and actually have it, you know, reflecting the same kinds of light on the blade. I think that'll be like way cooler personally than the other one that I had before. So yeah, learning just to kind of let go and embrace what I know looks good already. Cling. Man, those little speculars or those little gleaming highlights are so nice. I love how they look. But yeah, we'll continue to work on this stuff too, and obviously I'll post this stuff on the gram when it's done, I guess. But yeah, this has been a super fun stream. I'm glad we got to get started on the style guide. I'm hoping to get it done real soon so we can all make our own scouts, and that'll be really fun. Yeah, the stream was kind of all over the place in terms of what we talked about and what we did, but we made great progress. I think it was awesome. And again, I wanted to definitely plug the course for sure. I wanted to make sure you guys knew about it. Make sure you knew where you can find it. Again, if you want to find the course page just to take a look, it's going to be for March. I'll put it in the chat again here. Bam, bam. I'll also put it, it's already in the description, but I'll put a comment as well. And if you guys have any questions about it, you can ask me any question you want. You can DM me wherever on Instagram, works best. But yeah, this is a great reminder to like this video if you enjoy these streams, and if you want to see more of a specific kind of stream, definitely leave a comment, and just leave me a comment anyway, because heck yeah. Because yeah, man, for sure. You guys rule. I appreciate you guys sticking around for this sleepy stream. It's, I think, coming on to midnight my time. Let's see, how late is it? Oh my gosh, it's 12:30. What am I doing? Yeah, thank you guys so much for staying tuned in and hanging out, and definitely subscribe and all that good stuff. Anyway, you guys rule. Keep making art, keep believing in yourself, never give up, and I will see you all on the next stream. Alrighty, guys. Peace out.